And welcome everyone to the Apptrepreneur Show. I am your host, Kevin the Apptrepreneur. It is an honor and a privilege to have you here for your near daily dose of apps, technology, and even a little bit of entertainment on the side. Thank you for joining me. Now then, before we get into today's topics, and we have a, not exactly jam-packed show today. There's only like 4 news stories, plus a really fun thing we're going to do at the end. However, it's going to be a fun day, mainly because of that thing we're doing at the end. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this podcast first, this daily operational show. And I want to talk because we have officially passed 3 weeks of the show. We've been doing the Apptrepreneur Show in its official capacity for 3 weeks. And the Apptrepreneur Show has been a very interesting experiment for me, and I believe for all of you. I have been doing daily videos for a very long time at this point. 3.5 to 4 years, something like that. And I like making daily videos, but I was getting a little concerned about the burnout. I had to take a couple little breaks. I got burnt on the whole Uber topic. You all know that we still discuss rideshare, but it's not nearly the focus it used to be. And it can't be. There's nothing going on there. There's only so much you can say, Uber's going to screw you this week. So I decided to do the podcast and say, okay, what we'll do is instead of having 4 or 5 videos upload every single day, we will do a podcast, and then we will have replays of sections of the podcast the following few days. And not only that, we could do topics that I would typically do on other channels, and as a result, I could also create content for those other channels. And I would like to say, so far the podcast has been a very big success for me personally, and so far people have not complained. In fact, a lot of people really appreciate the format because people like coming on here. They like chatting with me. I like chatting with them. And if they don't want to spend the time doing an hour, they like how the stories tend to be shorter, more to the point. So everyone has really been winning on this one. Well, we're going to offer one more little tweak to the show, now that I know specifically what I want this show to be. And I want to show you something. I forgot to pull it up, so I'm sorry about that one. But here, let's pull this up and we'll pause it. Let's go over here real quick. This is one of my other channels, The Failed Journalist, and this is a video that I posted today. It's a review rant of Case Closed Episode 1 from Discotheque. This is a 25-minute video. It's a full review. It's got editing. It's got music. It's got clips. Where's a clip? Yeah, we're doing video clips. We're doing all these things. And I would like to do more of these. But this video, believe it or not, took about 4 to 5 hours to make because editing is just not... It's not a fast process, not to mention the writing and the actually reviewing. Then you got to decide what's going to stay, what's going to go. Then you got to find the clips and the images that you want to put together. It's a very time-consuming process. But I would like to make more of them. So going forward, and because I don't want this channel to be saturated with too much stuff, the Apptrepreneur Show as a podcast, unless there's something that's special that's going on, will be a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday show. And for the rest of the days will be the replay days. So if you miss those shows or you don't want to watch the whole episodes, you can see the replays. And of course, videos will also go up on other channels. I think this would be a perfect balance of not getting burnt out on the show, having time to do other projects, and, because I want YouTube to be fun. Yes, I make money doing it. It is, in a very real sense, a job. Despite some people's suspicion that I don't make a lot of money, the money's actually not too bad. But I want it to be fun first and foremost. I make enough money on the other, doing everything else, that if I were to cease YouTube, it would be felt, but it wouldn't be felt that much. So I want YouTube to be fun, and I want to keep it fresh for you guys, so that's what we're going to do. But anyway, I do also want to say thank you so much for watching the show, for commenting, for liking, for the super chats, for the emails I get. sharing it. Thank you for just supporting it in general. And I'm going to continue to enjoy to do this. And from now, going on from this point on, the new schedule will be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with replays on the other days that I will not be doing a podcast, so that you have daily content on this channel and also near daily content on the other channels. But anyway, with that out of the way, let's talk about our first main topic. And the first main topic involves TikTok, a platform I personally do not use. I don't understand the appeal of TikTok. I mean, I've seen some TikTok videos that are quite cute, to be honest. They're cute. But the thing is, I didn't really start watching YouTube on a regular basis until people on YouTube start figuring out how to make more substantial things. Like, yeah, cat videos are cute and stuff, but I didn't spend hours watching YouTube until I started seeing things that, like the Angry Video Game Nerd and the Nostalgia Critic and Film Ocean Society and the rantings of Tim Pool. There's a lot of, and once there were things that I could really watch and digest, then I started watching YouTube on a more daily basis. TikTok has a few cute things. I would not personally spend hours using it. And now I would really not use it because we now have credible evidence and credible suspicion that TikTok spies on U.S. users and gives data to the Chinese Communist Party. Now, some people are of the opinion, well, Facebook, Twitter, and yes, Microsoft, who we're going to be talking about in this very story, they spy on you too, and hey, whether it's a U.S. company or a company owned by the Chinese Communist Party, we see no difference in that. And you know what? You're totally fine to have that opinion. I mean, for some people, spying is spying. And unless the new company is not going to spy, they frankly don't see any reason for the power to change hands. Personally, while I do believe that American companies spying on civilians and the government spying on civilians is a problem, I would still... It's kind of like a lesser of two evils things. It's evil, yes. But compared to what the Chinese Communist Party does with their information, I would much rather have a U.S. company and the U.S. government spying on me than the Chinese Communist Party. Like, they kind of scare me, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the U.S. government kind of does too, but they scare me less so, I should say. So this news story hit that Donald Trump has talked to Microsoft and has agreed that Microsoft would be allowed to buy TikTok. And if Microsoft buys TikTok, or if a very American company that does not spy for a communist party buys TikTok, he will allow it to stay in operation. However, this comes with a couple of caveats. The first caveat is that this has to be done by September 15th. If TikTok does not have a sale by September 15th, the app will be shut down in America. Here's the other thing. He believes that the U.S. should get a substantial portion of the sale. So here's the article from Reuters. U.S. President Donald Trump said Monday the U.S. government should get a substantial portion of the sales price of the U.S. operations of TikTok and warned that he will ban the service in the United States on September 15th without a sale. The turnaround came after Trump Friday said he was planning to ban the Chinese-owned video app's U.S. operations as soon as Saturday after dismissing a possible sale to Microsoft. Now, this is what he said, and I'm going to try to do my best Trump impersonation because people seem to really like that. I did say that if you buy it, whatever the price is, that goes to whoever owns it, because I guess it's China, essentially. I said a very substantial portion of that price is going to have to come into the Treasury of the United States because we're making it possible for this deal to happen. It was not clear how the U.S. government would receive part of the purchase price. He added it will close down on September 15th unless Microsoft or somebody else is able to buy it and work out a deal. An appropriate deal so that the Treasury of the United States gets a lot of money. U.S. officials have said TikTok poses a national risk because of the personal data it handles. TikTok CEO Kevin Mayer said in a blog post last week that the company was committed to following U.S. laws and was allowing experts to observe its moderation policies and examine the code that drives its algorithms. Now, interesting thing about Kevin Mayer. Kevin Mayer gave a very, very cushy job at Disney to be the CEO of TikTok. Mayer, I believe, was working with ABC. He worked in closing deals with Lucasfilm and Pixar and the disinvestment of ABC Radio. He launched Disney Plus to great success. He was doing really good. He was actually considered one of the likely candidates for the next CEO of the Walt Disney Company. And then Bob Iger appointed Bob Chapek, who, side story, a lot of people believe that Chapek was supposed to be like a fall guy, but that he's actually been pretty resilient. And I think Kevin Mayer basically said, well, I guess I've grown as much as I can in this company. I don't need any more money, so I'm going to go to TikTok and be the CEO. And now he's essentially fighting for that company's life. How interesting that all ended up being. Anyway, Trump's comments confirmed a Reuters report Sunday that he had agreed to give China's ByteDance 45 days to negotiate a sale of popular short video app TikTok to Microsoft. Trump said he did not mind, here comes Trump with again, whether it's Microsoft or somebody else, a big company, a secure company, very, very American company, buy it. Microsoft said Sunday that CEO Satya Nadella, and I don't really remember what he sounds like, so I'm not going to do an impression, had spoken to Trump and is, quote, prepared to continue discussions to explore a purchase of TikTok in the United States. Microsoft said Sunday it is committed to acquiring TikTok subject to a complete security review and providing a proper economics benefits to the United States, including the United States Treasury. Now, before we continue any farther, I think this article is almost done, but before we comment any further, many people are asking at this point, what does Microsoft have to gain from this? Like, how is this going to fit into Microsoft's little ecosystem? And the fact of the matter is, we don't know. And here's one of the negative things about Microsoft purchasing things. They tend to buy things, and they've definitely got the money to buy these companies, without really thinking 100% if this is necessarily the best thing to do. How is this going to fit into the grander overall scheme of things? Like, for example, Microsoft bought Skype because they figured they would use Skype, on paper as an integrated communication tool for Office and Word and everything like that, and it never really panned out that way. Another thing that they bought, they wanted to become a big competitor to Apple and have their own Microsoft phones. So they bought Nokia, and Nokia had the Windows Phone, and the Windows Phone lasted maybe a year or two before they ultimately abandoned that idea. So I don't know exactly what Microsoft is planning with TikTok. I think right now all they see is like, hey, TikTok is the #1 app in the world. It's gonna be shut down by the government because it's potentially spying on American users. However, that means that it can be avoided if TikTok can be sold. And I'm sure the Chinese would much rather want to keep the app and continue to spy on its users. However, if they can't do that, they would rather sell it and get something from it. And because they have a deadline, they might sell it for far less money than what they normally would have sold it. So that's Microsoft's angle, I believe, from this. They don't know exactly what they're going to do with it, but hey, it's popular, it's cheap, and they can have it soon. Whether or not, but here's the thing, TikTok is still fairly new, and like Snapchat, it could fade relatively fast. So this could just be one of those things where Microsoft just spends a lot of money and they don't get anything out of it. Let's finish this article. Many prominent Republicans, including House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, issued statements in support of a Microsoft acquisition of TikTok's U.S. operations. Some congregational aides are worried about a backlash by younger voters against the party if Trump banned TikTok, which has 100 American users. Well, here's the thing. There are a lot of the young people who use TikTok, A, they don't vote, and B, if they did vote, they weren't going to vote for Trump anyway. I mean, have you seen TikTok? Not a lot of fans of Trump on TikTok. Microsoft and TikTok parent company ByteDance gave the U.S. government a notice of intent to explore a preliminary proposal from Microsoft to purchase the TikTok service in the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. U.S. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer also backed the sale, while a senior White House advisor raised concerns about a sale to Microsoft. Now, Schumer said a U.S. company should buy TikTok so everyone can keep using it and your data is safe, or at the very least, it's with America. This is about privacy. With TikTok in China, it's subject to Chinese Communist Party laws that may require handing over data to their government. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro suggested on Monday that Microsoft could divest its holdings in China if it were to buy TikTok. So the question is Microsoft going to be compromised? Navarro said in an interview with CNN. Maybe Microsoft could divest its Chinese holdings. That's not a terrible point. Now, Navarro has said that the Chinese government and military use Microsoft software to do all the things they do. That this is true, and that's one of the problems with being in bed with Microsoft. Now, here's something that we need to mention, because right now the conversation is focused on TikTok. But here's the reality, and the reality is that this is actually step one for Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants to remove Chinese-owned apps from American phones and computers as much as possible. He also wants to remove Chinese servers from American phones. Like, that's why Huawei was banned. And by the way, the UK followed up because they agreed that there were some concerns about China making the 5G networks. TikTok is merely the first. It is the first very, very public show of force that Chinese apps are not welcome in America, especially since they have a history of stealing data and giving to the Chinese Communist Party. Now, again, to some people, there is no difference between what's going on, and they could care less. A friend even said, like, Microsoft spies on me. Why am I rooting for them to buy TikTok? Like, I don't like them spying on me any more than the Chinese. This friend also has an Alexa, and he admits that the Alexa spies on him, but it's, the future's fun. Like, that's one of the things. Like, this is one of the reasons why 1984, the novel, has really come into re-prominence, because so many of the things that novel are coming true, where we are giving up our freedoms and our, and really our security for convenience and our rights. So, but this is Donald Trump showing a firm if you're a Chinese-owned app, don't come here. And TikTok is big enough that a company like Microsoft would want to buy it. Frankly, there's a lot of companies that would probably want to buy it. And there might even be a bidding war, which would be interesting, because now you're putting a lot of money into the pockets of the people who put a Trojan horse on your phone so that they could steal your data. It's funny how that all works out, but that's the thing. Money speaks, and TikTok is very successful. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, whether the deal gets completed or not. But what do you think about this? Would you trust a Microsoft-owned TikTok? Would you trust an American-owned TikTok? Or do you even use TikTok in the first place? I would love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. All right, let's see. Okay, we've got some comments. Okay, Slicknip, hey, how you doing? Cinema Fan says, I don't understand why America is hating on TikTok. Well, I think I just explained it's because of the very credible evidence that the TikTok app is spying on Americans, and, hackers have actually tried to reverse engineer it, and they found the app, copies things like phone numbers and passwords and stuff, and then they send it to a server, and the server's not accounted for on American soil. So that's the concern. Hey, welcome, Uberman Tampa. Hope you enjoyed your time at the Kennedy Center. By the way, Uberman Tampa's got a new t-shirt that he's selling. Go to his channel and buy one. So support the community. He says, hello, the person you don't like to debate with is here. LOL. How are you? Oh, I actually love to debate you. But it's been a while since we've talked on the phone, though. So, but yeah, I do like to debate you. And hey, Rand, how you doing? Uberman Tampa says, I had my Gmail hacked by using TikTok, so I am being much more careful on what I have on my phone, which isn't much. Well, see, Cinema Fan, that's one of the concerns. Uberman Tampa says, better start making phones in the U.S. then. Yeah, I think if Trump gets a second term, and that's definitely a big if right now, I think one of the things he would want to do is, he's made it clear, he wants manufacturing to come back to the U.S. That includes phones. So I think one of the goals is to put so much restrictions on the phones that eventually the American companies have to come back to America. That's my thinking anyway. Cinnamon says, doesn't the coronavirus fit into why Chinese-based apps are being banned in America? Well, that's a good question. That's a very good question. Because Trump has always been suspicious of China. So he probably would have pushed it one way or the other. That said, the coronavirus and its Chinese origins, it did come from China, has so screwed up the world that for once it seems like everyone's kind of in agreement that something needs to happen. So now when Trump goes after these Chinese-based apps, he's actually got support for it. Because before the coronavirus, a lot of people were like, well, they're our partners, we do a lot of business with them, maybe you shouldn't be attacking China. And now it's kind of like, hey, they screwed us up. Yeah, get rid of them. That's I think what's going on. So that's probably a yes and a no answer. Kind of just depends. Hey, Steven, how you doing? And Uberman Tampa says, I got an email from Google saying that my Gmail was logged in somewhere in South America. Oh, scary. Absolutely scary. All right, one more sip, and then we'll move to the second topic. And our second main topic, we're actually going to continue discussing TikTok. But something else on TikTok. Because here's the thing. TikTok, because it's now kind of the poster child for being an unsafe app and everything, is getting a lot of flack from people. And as a result, American companies like Twitter and particularly Facebook are now, kind of shooting snide little comments on it. I mean, and these are not severe things. They're like third grade level things. It's kind of like a good example of this would be like back in the console wars in '92 when it was Sega Genesis versus Super Nintendo, and Super Nintendo says you can only play this on Super Nintendo, and then Sega would come back and say, well, Sega does what Nintendo don't. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, it's Facebook did stuff like that. But of course, because TikTok is a Chinese-owned company, the owners have no sense of humor about this. And so you have this headlines like this where TikTok parent company ByteDance accuses Facebook of plagiarism and smear as it goes on the front foot. And by the way, when you see TikTok freaking out about what we're going to discuss, you can tell they're nervous. So here's the thing. ByteDance, the Chinese company that owns TikTok, accused Facebook of plagiarism and smear as it looks to go on the front foot following continued pressure of its business in the U.S. Late Sunday, the Beijing-based firm said that it is, quote, committed to becoming a global company, but it has faced all kinds of complex and unimaginable difficulties, according to the CNBC translation of the Chinese statement. These include a, quote, intense international political environment, the collision and conflict of different cultures, and the plagiarism and smear of competitor Facebook. ByteDance did not elaborate on the statement, but said it was mainly aimed at its domestic Chinese audience, so basically it was propaganda. Facebook was not immediately available for comment. Now, what is it that they actually complained about? Well, the comments came after Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg touted the social network as being a proudly American company in prepared remarks ahead of his testimony before the House Judiciary Subcommittee on antitrust last Wednesday. So what Mark Zuckerberg did when he was being grilled by Congress about antitrust, he opened by saying that Facebook was a proud American company, clearly showing shade at TikTok. Here's the other thing, though. Okay, so maybe that's the smear part, but what about the plagiarism part? Well, Facebook is apparently working on a TikTok-like service called Lasso and Instagram Reels. And Lasso and Instagram Reels would be very much like TikTok. Short videos, you maybe put some music to it, and you share on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, since those are established, that means like they could bring some of those younger people back, because a lot of younger people still have those Facebook and Instagram accounts even if they don't use them. So hey, if they can do TikTok on those platforms too, why not? Now, is that plagiarism? That's very, very hard to prove. I mean, it's a video. There are video services like, is Facebook Watch plagiarizing YouTube or Netflix? Is Peacock, which we're going to be discussing next, is that a ripoff of HBO Max and Disney Plus? I mean, there's certain things that it's like you just can't really copyright or patent these things. So what's really going on is TikTok is scared. They're scared because they have been hit with a lot of bad publicity, and now Facebook is looking to their cheddar and saying, we can do that too, and they are going to do it. Like, that was one of the reasons Netflix pivoted to original content. Because, yeah, they were the kings. They had the playground of the streaming world all to themselves. But Rex Reed was quoted as saying, when he looked at the other companies, the Disneys, the Warners, the Paramounts, the NBC Universals, he said, we need to become them before they become us. And that's one of the problems with these little video platforms. They're easily imitated, and they're imitated often. Heck, TikTok isn't even an original product. It borrows heavily from the defunct social media network Vine, which is no longer there. So this is a bunch of posturing, and we'll see what happens if TikTok is bought by Microsoft. In hindsight, if Google still had Google Plus, I think that's what it was, maybe TikTok would have made more sense for them to buy, because, integration with the social media network. But I even forgot if that was called Google Plus. Anyway, I'd like to know what you think of this. Do you think TikTok has a legitimate gripe, or do you think they're just being sore babies or whatever? I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. All right, let's see. No other comments, so we will be moving on to main topic number 3. The next 2 topics will be pretty brief, just to let everyone know, and then we're going to be doing the long, substantial, hopefully fun section of this. But let's talk about NBC Universal's Peacock. You'd think I would have fun talking about Peacock because I get to say Peacock in a family-friendly manner, but I don't. I just think it's a stupid name. Anyway, they launched a couple weeks ago, and the question has come up, are they doing well? And the answer is they appear to be off to a strong start. According to the International Business Affairs, more than 10 million households have signed up for Peacock, the new streaming service from Comcast NBC Universal. The media giant shared the update in its second quarter earnings release, and management had much more to say about the early results during the company's conference call. Jeff Shell, who I don't like because of what's going on with AMC right now, says, not only are more people signing up than we projected, but they are watching more frequently and engaging much longer than we projected. At its investor day in January, management said it expected to have 30 million to 35 million active accounts by 2024, while Share clarified that signups don't necessarily translate into monthly active accounts. He did note that all the metrics are ahead of expectations. We didn't expect this many signups. We didn't expect people to come back as frequently as they've come back, and we didn't expect people to watch as long as they're watching once they come back. Now, on one hand, you could say this really isn't that impressive. I mean, Disney Plus premiered with 50+ million users. Granted, a lot of those were free trial users, and Disney Plus, we have records that Disney Plus is a very, very poor retention for a lot of people, but they definitely launched slower than that, and it might even raise an eyebrow because Peacock is free. Like, you don't have to pay for Peacock if you don't want to. I do, because I don't want the ads and plus, early bird special. so I got like a huge discount. But at the same token, considering how many account services that there are out there, which again we'll be talking about later, and how many choices there are, it is impressive that Peacock did crack 10 million. Also, I believe Peacock is off to a slow start because they don't have much on there. But once The Office hits Peacock, oh, you bet it's going to do great. People will actually probably cancel their Netflix accounts for The Office and Parks and Recreation. Either way, 10 million is pretty much what we have right now, and we'll have to see what that's going to look like by the end of the year. But now I pass the question off to you. Do you think 10 million is a lot of people? Do you think this is impressive, or do you think it's not really that impressive? I would love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. All right, so let's see here. Cinema Fan said, I forgot about Vine. A lot of people forgot about Vine. By the way, if anyone wants to give a thumbs up and you haven't, please do. It would help out a lot. To answer Ryan's question, I never got to meet Kirk Douglas or get his autograph. And Cinema Fan said, it's starting to be too much when it comes to streaming. There's Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus. Was Peacock absolutely necessary? I don't see the demand. That's a good question, although we'll be talking about that later. Seriously, stick around to the end. You'll really love the last one. Ryan says, speaking of Disney Plus, are you going to be watching Howard? It comes out on Friday. It comes out Friday? Oh yeah, no. That's pretty high on my list. I really want to see Howard. Steven says, perhaps one app to rule them all. No, I'm actually perfectly fine with multiple apps. I mean, I know that people want one app. It's convenient. But, again, monopolies are never good. When you have one app, you don't get... Well, here, let me explain. You know how we're getting all these great shows on all these different services? It's like on Netflix, you've got Umbrella Academy and Stranger Things, and they ended Orange is the New Black, but they're investing heavily into animation. And then you go over to HBO Max, and they've got something by Anna Kendrick and the new Looney Tunes shorts, and Up Late with Elmo. You go to Amazon Prime, they've got Undone, and they've got Marvelous Miss Maisel. You go to Disney Plus, they've got The Mandalorian and Diary of a Future President. And Hulu has The Handmaid's Tale. You want to know why these shows get created? It's because they need you to subscribe to their service. If there's only one service, and if there's no competition to go to, then guess what? You're not getting much. I mean, when Netflix was pretty much the only game in town, yeah, we got House of Cards, but we didn't get a whole lot else. We got Beasts of No Nation, but we got like one show a year and maybe 2 movies. And now there's like a new show and movie dropping every month because they want you to subscribe. Oh, yes, The Witcher. Yes, Netflix has The Witcher. Because they want you to subscribe to them so they will make that content. In fact, and like DC Universe launched, and it's probably going to close soon, but they said, hey, we want people to subscribe to our service, so what do we got to do? Well, we could just rely on vintage DC Comics cartoons and the Tim Burton Batman movies, or we could make Swamp Thing, Stargirl, and Harley Quinn. So, no, you don't want one to rule them all because that's how you get more original stuff. Anyway, let's move on to our final topic before doing the thing at the end that we were talking about. In our final main topic, it's going to be funny. We're going to talk about SpongeBob SquarePants. One of the movies that I was really hoping to see in theaters would be Sponge on the Run, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. I mean, I don't know how I feel about it being 3D animated and all that jazz, but it looked funny, and I did want to see it. And then, of course, they announced it's going directly to streaming. Now, interestingly, I think they made that move because they want to relaunch CBS All Access. And as we were talking about during the Q&A, which if you're watching the replay, you're not seeing that part, so you might want to hunt down the actual podcast to see what I was talking about. But people don't like CBS All Access. I think people subscribe to CBS All Access periodically, like, okay, once in a while we'll subscribe when there's a new season of Star Trek Discovery and Picard, but there's not a whole lot on there. But CBS All Access wants to be a Netflix and Disney Plus size competitor. So they announced that Sponge on the Run will premiere exclusively on CBS All Access to launch the service along with the entirety of the SpongeBob SquarePants cartoon library. That is going to be a very, very big selling point for parents. I think this movie would have definitely made money in theaters, but right now, since attendance is limited and everything, they figured they might as well use it to launch their new streaming services. But apparently, Sponge on the Run is coming to theaters, but only in Canada. So here's from Cartoon Brew. Paramount Canada made a surprise announcement this morning that the SpongeBob movie Sponge on the Run will open in theaters across Canada on August 14th. The release date is a significant departure from the plans for its release in the U.S., where Viacom CBS has announced that the film won't be released until early 2021, and even then only on premium video on demand. After its premium video on demand window, the film will be available on Viacom CBS's CBS All Access streaming service. Netflix has picked up the international rights to the Paramount Animation-produced film, so Netflix picked up the international rights, but apparently Canada was not part of that. And, of course, I feel sorry for those international territories because, again, these movies are made for theaters. They're made to be seen on the big screen. And when Netflix picks them up or when they decide to send them straight to premium video on demand, you're not getting the effect. Heck, the SpongeBob movie was filmed in 3D, and the last SpongeBob movie was very good in 3D, but you're not going to watch it in 3D at home unless they make a Blu-ray 3D and you can import it. So, there's a part of me that's kind of joking that maybe me and my wife should cross the border of Canada, and instead of getting free health care, we're crossing the border to see Sponge on the Run. Maybe just make a trip out of it and visit Canada. Of course, first of all, that's extremely crazy. It's just a movie, and I'm sure it's not worth the expenses or the effort to do it. Also, because Canada has the coronavirus situation under control, and we don't, for reasons I will not get into here. This is why they get to have the movie and we don't. And Canada wouldn't even let us in anyway for that reason. So, I don't know. I find that very, very, very fascinating. I am surprised that Paramount sold the international rights to Netflix, but they probably sold them for a sum that covered the cost of the movie, so they probably broke even. They will get a little bit of money from the premium video on demand. They will launch a new service, and then in Canada, I guess it's going to be in in theaters, so they'll get some box office money there. I'm going to be fascinated to see how much money SpongeBob makes only playing in theaters in Canada. But that said, I would like to know what all of you think about this news. Would you cross the border of Canada to go and see this movie? I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. Alright, let's see here. Let's see. Ryan says, are you surprised that Shoutfax Sales announced a Blu-ray releases of... No, I'm not surprised. I'm sure Netflix has a exclusive window. Let's see here. And Cinema Fan says, I hate Americans now, and I'm an American. Well, I can understand that a little bit. Hey, George, how are you doing? George, you came in at the right time. Let's see. Do you have... The Lumberjack Rabbit cartoon will not be in 3D on the Blu-ray. It absolutely will not. So, I mean, that might make for an interesting blog post, but yeah, it's just not going to be there. So, okay, folks. With that out of the way, it's time for an interactive portion of the video. And here's where I've been getting these questions a lot from people who watch these shows live and they watch my videos and they know that I'm covering the streaming wars. I'm very serious about covering the streaming wars. And they always ask, Kevin, what services, when it comes to the stream services, do I need to have and which ones could I live without? And I think that's an interesting question because here's the thing. I subscribe to a lot of the streaming networks because I, kind of like cable, I like to cast my net wide. But there are some services that I watch way more than others. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to make a tier list. And I'm going to rank how necessary I think it is for the average consumer to have these services. And I put as many as I could think of, and there's so many of. out there. Some of which are free, which, by the way, we'll be doing a separate tier list for the free apps. But I figured of the main apps, you know, your Netflixes, your Hulus, your Apple TV Plus, I figured I would rank from S to F, and S is like, this is absolutely required. I believe you should have this. You know, that I figured we would rank these things. And I will have to take note that, you know, there's certain things that are a little bit more, how should we put it, niche or specific in what they're doing, and I will make note of that. But let's start, for example, with Netflix. Like, in terms of, you know, A to F was S being above and beyond, couldn't live without the service, and F being, I could really care less about it. Where would I put Netflix? And here's where I found myself kind of shocked. I actually would find myself putting Netflix in the B category. Because I've always had Netflix, and I probably always will. I don't watch nearly that much to Netflix anymore, and their original programming is not as much of a draw as it used to be. Now, granted, they still have a show that can have like a cultural impact once in a while, the most recent being The Tiger King. But I don't find myself watching Netflix much these days, and so I kind of realize, even though I will probably always have Netflix, it's not a must-have as it normally would be. Compared to Hulu, I actually use Hulu all the time. Hulu gets used probably once a day because it's got, you know, Family Guy on it, and it has The Handmaid's Tale. I love their original shows. I love their animation selection. They've got some anime on there. You do have to watch some ads, or you could pay a little extra for no ads, but and Hulu also has a live TV option if you want to add more money onto it. So I think Hulu is a must-have. Then you get something to like Prime Video. I would say Prime Video is a C. No, let's take it back. I'll be fair. It's a B. Prime does have some good shows. Marvelous Miss Maisel, Undone. I love those shows. I mean, the biggest thing holding Prime back is, frankly, it's a mess. Like, with the shows, the seasons are broken up by individual shows. You have to kind of make note which ones are Prime shows, because if it doesn't have like a Prime banner on it, it costs extra. So it's kind of a mess when you think about the setup and everything. But Prime Video is pretty good, I have to admit. Now we get the HBO Max. This is another one that I absolutely love this service. I mean, I've watched more movies on this thing than almost anything else. And it's got a great animation library. They're uploading new things. It has all of South Park. I really, really love HBO Max. Now, let's get to Disney Plus. And Disney Plus is... I'm going to put that on a C. Now, here's why I'm going to put Disney Plus on a C. It's because Disney Plus is one of those services that does not make a very compelling case for you to keep it. Now, I have paid for 3 years up front, but if I didn't pay for that 3 years up front and I had to budget a little bit, I think Disney Plus would be one of the first things I would cancel. And one of the problems is because Disney Plus, like, what do people talk about when it comes to Disney Plus? Oh, it has all the classic movies, it has the shorts, it has TV shows, it has all this, and it's like, yeah, the stuff that people talk about the most, Star Wars, Pixar, Marvel, I have all of it on Blu-ray. Some of it 4K, some of it 3D, and I don't watch that stuff on Disney Plus. And when it comes to original content, Disney doesn't have much. I like their original shorts, but they're, well, short. Muppets Now has the potential to be good. But yeah, they have otherwise The Mandalorian, Diary of a Future President. They've got that Howard movie coming out. I'll look forward to that. And they have Hamilton. I did like Hamilton, but Disney Plus doesn't make a strong case for itself most of the time. So I would probably, if I didn't have like the annual plans, I'd probably be canceling that one. All right, moving up next, we have Peacock. I'm going to put Peacock in the C category. I do like some of the stuff on there, but the price tier is a little confusing. There's not much on there, and it has room to grow. There's almost no original content either. But it's also free, so for a lot of people, that will make a huge, huge, huge difference. Now let's do YouTube Premium. YouTube Premium probably squeezes down to a D. Now, I will probably never get rid of YouTube Premium, but there are two reasons why I keep it around. I like watching YouTube without ads, and I can watch without ads and support the creator, so I like doing that. Also, it comes with YouTube Music, which, the funny thing is I have YouTube Premium because when I subscribed to Google Play, it gave me YouTube Red and YouTube Music for free, and now they have since renamed YouTube Red to YouTube Premium. They are shuttering Google Play Music, and YouTube Music is going to be Google's music app. So, but in terms of original content, Cobra Kai is moving to Netflix. So there's not a lot of reason for the average person, I feel, to have a YouTube Premium account. Now you have Vudu. Now Vudu is, it kind of depends how you view Vudu on this one. When it comes to like original content and things like that, it's a D. And otherwise, you're buying everything. However, it's free, and I have to say, when I redeem my digital codes and I buy movies, I always do it through Vudu if possible, because I do like the Vudu platform. So Vudu gets a D just because it's not a really original product, and it's not, in terms of the original content streaming thing, it's by far the weakest. I think the only original thing they have is Mr. Mom, to be perfectly honest. So that's where I'm kind of listening there. Now, Criterion Channel. I would normally put this as an S, but I'm putting it as an A, and I'm putting it as an A just slightly below S for a couple minor but important reasons. First, the layout is pretty confusing. They don't categorize things very well. They categorize things by like directors and actors and certain celebrational months, which is fine, but it makes searching for things real hassle. Also, things rotate frequently on Criterion Channel. Movies are being added and leaving every single month, and you kind of have to keep a scorecard. If you have like a queue, you really have to be paying attention, like, okay, what's leaving and how long do I have to watch that? And it changes all the time. So I do believe that Criterion Channel could be a little bit more user-friendly. That said, it has a lot of great stuff. It has classic movies, foreign films, documentaries. It has these very, very fascinating interviews with filmmakers. So I eat the Criterion Channel up quite a bit. Now Stars. I think Stars falls in the D category for me. I actually got 6 months of Stars for $25 when the pandemic started, and I've only watched like a couple movies. I mean, there is stuff on there, but I just don't find myself watching it very much. Their original shows don't really interest me that much. I liked Boss with Kelsey Grammer, and then it had a cliffhanger ending, and I was like, well, great, that didn't mean anything. And I did like, it was fun to see Stan and Ollie. Also, the Stars logo kind of pops up fairly frequently, and in the age of streaming, that shouldn't be the case, but, Okay, so Apple TV Plus. I'm putting this, I was originally going to put this in C, but I'm going to put it under B. I'm going to put it under B for two main reasons. One, it's cheap. At $5 a month, this is probably the cheapest service. This is one of the cheapest services on this list. And the other reason is because while it doesn't have much, what it does have is high quality. Most of the Apple TV Plus shows, minus a C here and there, are very, very good. I love Central Park. I loved that Greyhound movie. I love that Beastie Boys documentary. That M. Night Shyamalan show, Servant, was really good. I enjoyed the morning show. Again, it's not much, but it's good, and it's only $5 a month. So, another thing where it's going to become a problem for some people, though, is like, it's pretty easy to spend $5 a month on this thing and not notice it because it's so cheap, and then you don't really use this thing for a while. But I'm going to put it B because, it's like, I'm sure that will improve at some point. Now then, let's look at Crunchyroll. I'm going to put Crunchyroll at A. Crunchyroll has a lot of good anime on it. And for like $60 a year, you can watch it ad-free. Big downside, most of it is subtitled. So if you do not like reading subtitles, Crunchyroll might not be for you. For you, that if you want dubbed, you might want Funimation Now, which not only has a lot of dubbed anime and subbed anime, it has some of the heavy hitters. It has Dragon Ball Z. It has, I think they've added Naruto. It has One Piece. It has a Berserk movie is coming, I hear. And Funimate, me and my wife are watching Escaflowne on it right now. So, sorry, I don't know what happened there. But, yeah, so if you're an anime fan, these are definitely very nice to have. Funimation Now is I think $6 a month. So is Crunchyroll. Or you can get the annual subscription. Now, when it comes to anime, you have High Dive. And High Dive is frankly not great. It does have some good shows, but it has some problems. Switching from English to Japanese is not easy. The fast forward and rewind buttons are a pain. The interface is pretty lousy, to be honest. One of the reasons I keep High Dive, though, is because of its price. You can get a whole year of it for $48, which is nothing, really, when you get down to it. And I use it probably the least out of all the streaming services I have. But it's there, and once in a while you turn it on, and you can watch some anime for a cheap price. Now, we also have Broadway HD, which I'm surprised Hamilton didn't come to this thing. Broadway HD is exactly as it sounds. For $100 a year, you have a bunch of Broadway shows you can stream. Now, this will obviously depend how much you like Broadway. I personally do, so I'm putting under B also for Broadway, just being kind of cute. But, that's just, if you like Broadway, then Broadway HD is there. Again, I'm surprised Hamilton didn't go there, but then Disney Plus overpaid for it, I think. So, anyway, then you have DC Universe. I'm going to put DC Universe as an F, because there's really no reason to have it anymore. And by the way, I think this app will be gone sooner rather than later. I think they're starting to move all the programs to HBO Max. I don't even think this is going to be a thing anymore. But DC Universe was I think a misguided effort. Look, I love Batman, I love Superman, I love the Justice League, I love Wonder Woman, Flash. I love all those characters. Do I like them enough to have their own streaming service? Probably not. Now, DC Universe did also allow you to have access to DC Comics. It should be noted that. So with both a show and a comics app. But then on the other hand, Crunchyroll also lets you have manga, and Crunchyroll is just a far better service overall. So I don't think the DC Universe is worth much, and I think it's going to not stick around. Another service that I personally have no use for is ESPN Plus. But full disclosure, I do not watch sports. So if you like sports, this could easily become an A or an S tier app. I think the one thing that ESPN is maybe a little bit shaky on is that I'm not aware if it has too many live games. But ESPN does have a lot of sports programming, so if that's your thing, ESPN Plus is for you. For the most part, though, but I'm not going to do much with it. Now, one service that I personally like, but I'm going to give it a low grade, is Fandor. That's going to be a C. And Fandor is a site that picked up foreign films, older movies, documentaries, shorts, and they actually shared the profits of the company 50-50 with the filmmakers, depending on how much people watched it. That showed where their heart was. Unfortunately, that was not a sustainable business model, and the company was bought. Now, interestingly, we don't know who bought the company. They've never taken the service down. It's only $60 a year, so it's not exactly expensive. But it's not being updated anymore either, so it's kind of hard to recommend. And then we have Quibi, and Quibi is just an awful, awful service. I mean, this is the one that has the most potential to bump up. That Fugitive show isn't terrible. The Reno 911 is really funny. But they need to get away from this phone concept. They need to put it on TVs. And they just need to make better shows and ignore the gimmick. Maybe the bite-sized entertainment thing would work. YouTube is a thing. The Da Vinci Code was a well-read book, and those were super short chapters. But I think for the most part, Quibi was just misguided. So when it comes to me personally recommending streaming services, I consider Hulu and HBO Max. You must have them. Afterwards, I think Criterion Channel, Crunchyroll, and Funimation. If you like this type of stuff, it's interesting how that worked out with the A. That is also pretty strongly get. When it comes to B, these are things that you might not need, but they're definitely nice to have. We have Netflix, Prime Video, Apple TV Plus, and Broadway HD. Now, the C level, that's pretty much like, they're good, but only if you can afford them, and you might not want to keep them around all year round. You've got your Disney Plus, your Peacock, your High Dive, your Fandor. Under D, these things still have things that are worth getting about them, but you won't be spending much time with them, and that's the YouTube Premium, the Vudu, or the Stars. Well, really, when you fall into this category, like, again, with Premium, I obviously use that all the time, but it's not like there's any exclusive content. And Vudu has a little bit of exclusive content, but you mainly use it for digital copies. And then under the I just don't recommend at all is DC Universe, ESPN Plus, and Quibi. Although, again, I'm not a sports fan, so if you are a sports fan, it could easily come up here. Just want to let you know. So anyway, those are my rankings for all the streaming services that I can think of at the moment in the streaming war. I will do another one for the streaming services that are free, though. So we will do that probably next week. In the meantime, what about you? How would you rank these services? Which ones could you not live without? I'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. All right. Let's see what's going on here. And let's see here. Golden Runway. Kevin, how are you? Are you still doing ride shares? No, I am not. He also says, getting rid of the flat screen overlords in the house is the most patriotic thing you can do. I don't know what you mean by that. Cinema Fan says, for me, Netflix is an S and Disney Plus would be an A. That's perfectly fine to feel that way. Ryan says, Disney Plus would be an S for me if it had full seasons of Disneyland, Walt Disney Presents, and The Wonderful World of Color. But since it only has a handful of episodes of them, I'd also give it a C. Well, I'm glad we agree on that one. RBX puts a bunch of symbols there. Thank you for being here. Ryan says, where would Boomerang streaming be if it was an option on this? I'd give it a B since it has quite a bit of Looney Tunes cartoons that aren't on HBO Max or even DVD and Blu-ray. I'd probably give that one a B as well. Yeah, I'd probably give that a B as well. So anyway, folks, that is where we are going to end today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, we have a new schedule. The next podcast will be on Wednesday. However, we will have replay videos tomorrow in case you missed any of the topics today and don't want to watch the whole hour. Thank you so much for commenting, liking, subscribing, and spending time. I will see you later, and stay safe out there.